Conservation Ag Update is brought to you by Martin Till. Welcome to Conservation Ag Update. Great to have you with us as always. I'm Noah Newman. Hey, let's begin with some big news out of Elizabethtown, Pennsylvania, where no-till innovator Jim Hershey has received the prestigious Leopold Conservation Award for land stewardship. Now, Jim and his wife Cheryl started no-tilling in the early 1980s to reduce fuel and labor costs, and it helped them overcome high debt and soaring interest rates at the time. Just about every year since, Jim's added something new to his bag of tricks, like cover crop mixes and planting green. And today, Jim's no-till system helps prevent erosion and runoff while saving him big money on nutrients and herbicides.
So we're capturing all the nutrients that this cover crop has provided, and it's also helping to hold the nutrients from running off into our streams and waterways. Look at all the roots there that's helping to hold the soil together, giving food to the microbes and helping to recycle all the nutrients that are available in the soil.
You might ask, why would we need a riparian buffer? And so when Jim planted these trees with the CREP program, with USDA CREP program, these trees, working with the great soil management that he has in this farm, are really the ingredients to restore this stream into a much more biologically rich ecosystem. That looks really good, wow. Right? Okay, so this water we just pulled right out of the stream here that's flowing through Jim's farm, and it is perfectly clear. That's a great thing for the stream. We know then that the soil that's on Jim's fields is staying on his fields, growing healthy crops and not ending up in the stream.
Jim co-founded the Pennsylvania No-Till Alliance in 2005. He also leads the state's Regenerative Ag Research Foundation and serves on the State Conservation Commission Board. Well, moving on, Mariah, Indiana no-tiller Joseph Kern is riding high after his Hoosiers won the national championship, so you can tell in this picture over my shoulder here. And he'll continue to stack wins this spring when he plants green into living cover crops. That's something he's been doing since 2015. Kern credits networking and educational events, like the No-Till Conference, for steering him in the right direction.
Where we used to spray the cover crop at a real short height because we were scared to plant into it, to making some mistakes along the way, like spraying it whenever it was really tall and we had rope, till we finally broke free and listened to our friends at the No-Till Conference, which the networking is just great with other farmers. And we finally decided we're gonna plant green. And once we did that, about 2015 or 2016, we decided we'd never go back. It's the best thing. It works on our bottom ground, on our good ground, on our hill ground. It made our farm profitable. We probably wouldn't be able to farm today. We probably had to rent it out or do something different if we were going to try to fight the old ways.
All right, let's keep the cover crop talk going now with this week's Cover Crop Connection. McCain Vogel, what you got?
All right, McCain Vogel here. I'm joined with Rick Matt, one of our growers who's going to be on the Cover Crop Summit program. And Rick, why don't you just tell everybody a little bit of a preview about what you're going to be talking about at the summit this year?
I guess I'm just sharing my experience with adding covers and then various forms of livestock and growing summer annuals as our little niche and how that fits in with that. Try to touch on a little microbes deal, but usually when it gets too technical, my brain goes blah, blah, blah. So hopefully it's pretty layman's terms.
You know, I was just at our national no-tillage conference in St. Louis and talked to a lot of different farmers from different backgrounds and regions out there. But one thing I heard over and over again is folks saying, you know, man, I've been doing cover crops and no-till for a long time, but grazing and the livestock part of it is something that, you know, a lot of folks want to add to their system, but just haven't quite figured out the logistics. I guess what's your advice to like beginners trying to get into that part of it?
Take it slow and growing it, you know, especially with cattle right now. You know, it's pretty risky to jump into that and add it, but you know, when it corrects, I think it'd be a really good time to bring it in, but start on a small level, see what works. Sheep's a little easier, just for manhandling them and moving them around. It's just a little easier. And then I guess to me, the benefits we've seen is just starting to diversify your crop rotation is started to enhance your crop growth. And to me, that's a big plus if you could even start doing that ahead of the livestock.
Absolutely. Well, we're looking forward to your presentation. And those of you who are listening, feel free to go to covercropstrategies.com and you can find out more about the Cover Crop Summit there and sign up for free.
Great conversation there. Thank you very much, McCain, for putting that together for us. All right, it was a challenging year for 2025 Conservation Ag Operator Fellow Michael Thompson. Our Dan Crummett caught up with the Almena, Kansas no-tiller to chat about some of his top takeaways from a very dry growing season.
What did you learn from 2025?
Well, I guess key number one, that there is resiliency in the system, that it doesn't take a lot of moisture to grow a crop. It takes a lot of moisture to grow a good crop, but it doesn't take a lot of moisture to grow a crop. That with that resiliency piece in there, that the soil really wants to, yield for you. So,
And that resilience, explain again what you're talking about there.
Well, I think that a lot of it is just that it seems like, the stuff that we've done with long-term no-till, with trying to keep the soil covered as much as possible, you just, every little bit of moisture you get goes that much further. So
what were your yields like? Corn, soybeans, and beef? How do you?
Well, I can say that the all of the yields there was something out there. Soybeans were anywhere between 28 and 38, which we didn't even figure that we were going to harvest soybeans at all, that we thought it was a total loss. But we did get some rains there in August that they did go ahead and green back up and fill. And so there was some grain out there. Corn was all over the board, depending on where it rained and where it didn't. Looking back on it, for the spotty rains and the little amount of rain we had, we were lucky that we had a harvest too, because we just a lot of those acres were corn on corn, so they were second year corn, and without any profile. When we don't have a soil profile and we don't get the rains, it's just pretty hard to make anything yield, because there just wasn't much moisture to be had this year.
Big thanks once again to Michael for giving us a peek behind the curtain throughout the year. Well, over 100 ag organizations from coast to coast have come together to make sure farmers continue to have access to those critical crop protection tools they depend on. It's called the Modern Ag Alliance, and its executive director, Elizabeth Burns-Thompson, says conservation and chemistry go hand in hand. Our Mike Lessiter sat down with Elizabeth to talk about some of the progress her team is making.
Modern Ag has been working on policy solutions. This will be now going into our third year at the state level. Last year, we were part of policy proposals in about 12 states, ranging everywhere from Idaho down to Florida, and a handful in between. Very pleased to say that we were able to get a few of those across the finish line up in the state of North Dakota, as well as down in Georgia. Those landmark bills were not only passed bipartisanly, but also signed into law by the governors in those respective states, which is a huge, huge step forward for this industry. We're hoping to take that momentum going into 2026. We do anticipate working in probably about 8 states at this point in time. There are some states where that legislation will be carryover from 2025. So places like my home state of Iowa, places like North Carolina, Tennessee, where we made it through a chamber, and we're going to continue to work on finishing that range through the next chamber. And there are other places where this legislation is being teed up for the first time, and so these legislators are going to be having initial new conversations. But I do anticipate, through the Mountain West all the way down to the southeastern part of the United States, there's going to be a robust amount of conversation on pesticides, pesticide labeling, and providing certainty for farmers in those states.
Burns-Thompson says you can learn more and make your voice heard at controlweedsnotfarming.com. Well, more crop protection talk in our video of the week now. This one comes to us from a roundtable at Wisconsin John Deere dealer Reister and Schnell. Jackson Reamer and Ryan Miller talked about their experience using See and Spray targeted spraying technology and if it worked with no-till.
It seems that the system works and it's probably going to improve. The release is there, and now it's kind of it's in your hands to almost make it every farm is going to be a little different. You can't keep doing different tillage. We have manure. Like there's a lot of different factors that come into every operation. Obviously, that there's different ways to make it work, I guess, if you want to use it.
Yeah, like on our ground that we do minimal till or no till on, it seems like that's where the largest savings were. If you were out in the spring doing a burn down and you went in later on, I mean, that stuff was, I'd say 10 to 15% less spray coverage on that than the stuff that we do tillage on, which I thought was pretty crazy to see that number difference, you know. So there was some more savings on that, I thought, even. Sure. So I think he, you know, him down there doing a lot of no-till, he really saw the benefit of it right away, you know.
Interesting stuff there. That'll wrap things up for January. Story ideas, shoot me an email at innewman@lessermedia.com. Thanks so much for tuning into Conservation Ag Update. Hope you have a great day. See you soon.